So we'll speak in English. As we had agreed, we have a lot of guests also online. So, dear representative of Your Excellency, the Deputy Minister of Culture, Ms. Anaxagora, dear representative of His Excellency, the Ambassador of Greece, Ms. Theocharidou, dear Director of the Department of Antiquities, Dr. Georgiou, dear Chair of the Technical Committee on Cultural Heritage, Mr. Ktoris, dear Director of CARI, Dr. Krou, dear President of the Academy of Sciences, Letters and Arts, Professor Emilianidis, and members of the Academy, dear President of the Cyprus Institute, Professor Malas, and members of our board, dear colleagues, students and friends. Welcome, I'm Nicholas Pakirtsis, Associate Professor at the Cyprus Institute and the Science and Technology in Archaeology Research Center, STARC. We are particularly pleased today to collaborate with the Cyprus Academy of Sciences, Letters and Arts in the presentation of a momentous research effort led by Professor Efrosini Rizopoulou Igoumenidou alongside Dr. Noli Moisi. Over the past several years, Frosso and Noli, supported by an interdisciplinary team of experts from STARC and other institutions, have put together the most comprehensive study of the history and culture of the Cypriot dress, highlighting its role as a multidimensional cultural phenomenon reflecting cultural, national, and class identity, gender, political allegiance, ethnic or regional distinctions. Today's event is dedicated to this effort and the ways it addressed the cultural richness of the Cypriot dress, focusing on the periods of Ottoman and British rule over the island. I also want to underscore that the project is an integral part of the framework of the OPTRA, the Leventis Digital Library of Cypriot Culture of the Cyprus Institute. We have supported the research with the creation of a database and a developing digital library, aspects of which we will briefly share with you today. This platform aspires to become a virtual portal presenting the traditional Cypriot dress of all communities living in the island, beginning with Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, and Armenians. But first, allow me to ask Ms. Maria Anaxagora, Director of the Cyprus Handicraft Service, to come to the podium for a short address representing Her Excellency the Deputy Minister of Culture, Professor Vasiliki Kassianidou, who was unable to be with us tonight. Ms. Anaxagora.
Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to address the presentation of the research program and the official launch of the Open Access Digital Library titled The OPTRA, History and Culture of Dress in Cyprus from the 16th century to the 20th centuries, Greek Cypriot, Turkish Cypriots, and Armenians. Developed within the framework of the OPTRA, the Leventis Digital Library for Cypriot Culture of the Cyprus Institute and led by Efrosini Rizopoulou Igoumenidou, Professor Emerita at the University of Cyprus and founding member of the Cyprus Academy of Sciences, Letters and Arts. This pioneer large-scale project traces the evolution of Cypriot attire from the 16th to the 20th centuries, exploring how historical events, social stratification, cultural identity, and global interactions influenced dress of the island. The history of early modern Cypriot dress is deeply intertwined with the island's political landscape, shaped by Ottoman and British rule. During the Ottoman period, Cypriot dress bore significant Eastern influences with social hierarchies evident in clothing. Early into the British period, the Europeanization of Cypriot dress became more pronounced, especially among urban elites and progressively among the wider social strata. The Dioptra project not only addresses the impact of political and socioeconomic realities on Cypriot people's dress, image, but more importantly, explores and showcases the unique contributors of Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, and Armenians to Cypriot dress. The examination of attire as an important cultural element that expresses both individual and collective identities is one of the most significant contributions of this research project. Institutional collaborations with local and foreign museums enriched the project, enabling the comprehensive documentation and presentation of hundreds of items of Cypriot attire. Moreover, the use of advanced technology greatly enhanced both the visual documentation of selected objects and the project's outreach in general. In Cyprus Institute team, led by Dr. Nicolas Bagedzis, utilized advanced technologies such as 2D and 3D imaging to create an immersive digital platform. As a result, the Dioptra Digital Library records and showcases the history of Cypriot dress in unprecedented ways, providing a user-friendly interface for global audiences. The digital open access publications of the history and culture of dress in Cyprus transcends traditional academic boundaries, preserving Cypriot cultural heritage in an innovative, interactive format. It engaged both scholars and the general public, ensuring that the vibrant story of Cypriot dress remains a source of inspiration and education for generations to come. Dioptra Digital Library on Cypriot dress stands as a treatment to the power of digital heritage to connect past and present, celebrating the island's cultural diversity and resilience. The Deputy Ministry of Culture strongly advocates such efforts, ensuring that the history and cultural heritage of Cyprus will continue to educate, inspire, and connect audiences not only locally but worldwide. I warmly congratulate Professor Efrosini Rizopoulou-Igoumenidou, the research team, and all other contributors to the project. I'm confident it will set a new benchmark in the research history of Cypriot dress.
Thank you, Ms. Anaxagora. I now want to call to the podium Professor Achilleas Emilianidis, President of the Cyprus Academy of Sciences, Letters and Arts, for his welcome address, and I want to thank the Academy for co-organizing this event with us.
Dear colleagues, dear guests, thank you very much. I'm very pleased and honored to be here for this event, and that the Academy is co-organizing it. Our main objectives, as per the legislation, include the collaboration with institutions in Cyprus, the contribution to the promotion of science, letters and arts, and the enhancement of the Republic through the work of its researchers. Today's presentation fulfills all those objectives as it focuses on a research program that is of particular importance to Cypriological and comparative research. It refers to the history and culture of dress and attire, and it includes the creation of a digital library which allows both the specialized sciences and the general public to fully appreciate the magnitude of the research work and to understand and appreciate the evolution of the culture of dress during the Ottoman and British periods. Cyprus is an island with a lengthy, rich and diverse cultural heritage. Of course, since 1974, there has been a trichotomy of Cypriot cultural heritage as it refers to assets located on the one part within the part of the island that is controlled by the government, secondly, in the areas occupied, and certainly all over the world because of illicit trafficking. The discussion in the academic literature focuses a lot on how to distinguish cultural heritage from property. And indeed, the distinction is not always as straightforward as one might have wanted. Even in the law of antiquities, or even in the law of the deputy of culture, the distinction between what cultural heritage is and how it differentiates from property is not very clear. The event presented today is a good case study on how we can distinguish cultural property, cultural heritage, especially intangible cultural heritage, from general property that deems part of the island's heritage. The famous UNESCO Convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage of 1972 that was ratified by the Republic of Cyprus in 1975 defined cultural heritage as consisting of monuments, groups of buildings and sites. This, of course, was very tangible, as all aspects refer to property, refer to tangible elements. This is why the more recent UNESCO Convention for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Property and Cultural Heritage, which has been ratified by the Republic also since 2015, defines the intangible cultural heritage as the practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, skills, as well as the instruments, objects, artifacts, and cultural spaces associated with the people and communities of a country, and which individuals recognize as part of their cultural heritage. So this is a definition that covers precisely what we are discussing here, especially since it refers to several groups that occupy, not in the sense of occupation, but in the sense of presence, space in the Republic, and which have their distinct identities that they bring to the forum as part of the cultural heritage of the island. So today's presentation increases our knowledge. It allows for a reconsideration and a reevaluation of our island's heritage, common heritage, in a digital assisted manner. And I want to congratulate my colleague in the Academy, Efrosini Rizopoulou Igoumenidou, Noli Moisi, and the entire research team of the Cyprus Institute for the completion of this monumental research project. And, of course, for the development of the digital library, which is a very important part of this project. My sincere thanks to and congratulations go, of course, to the Cyprus Institute and its president, Professor Stavros Malas, for supporting this project throughout as part of their research agenda. And we are very pleased that the Academy had the opportunity to co-organize this event and support it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Emilianidis. And now I want to call to the podium the President of the Cyprus Institute, Professor Malas.
Thank you, Nicola. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. Let me start with an apology. I haven't been singing. My voice is a bit distorted just because of cold, which is rampant these days. I am COVID negative, by the way. So it's really a great pleasure. Every time we have a talk here about cultural heritage, this room is nearly full. And that's obviously the reflection of the of the curiosity and the eagerness to learn about particularly our modern cultural heritage. I avoided the protocol. Excuse me, Nicolas said it all, you know, that's... and this work actually is what we call our epigenetic heritage. In other words, you know, heritage is something that we inherit from our ancestors. In this case, we were talking about the history over the last 450 years or so. And as we inherit that intangible heritage, we change it. But there is an imprint, and that imprint talks about the commonality of the cultural heritage in this country. And of course, studying the cultural heritage, particularly through the dress code of the 2 and 3 communities. There are 5 communities, 2 main communities, and the third one smaller. It's fundamental to actually magnify a little bit about our recent culture. Now, I was thinking to show a provocative slide, but first I will thank Professor Egomenidou and my predecessor, Kostas Papanikolas, for supporting this project. I didn't do anything, Achilles, they did it all. But it's fundamental that when we study the history of this country over the last 500 years, we need to blow it up with all the tools we have. And you know what I'm talking about. Last night, I received this picture. That is my DNA. So you see, that's my DNA. And it says that Cyprus, which is in the middle, and I am the person sitting in that dot, I have DNA from Mizrahi Jews, from Western Asians, from Middle Eastern, from Greek South, Italians, from Sardinians, and so on. And the colors are reflected here. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about this, and I have no hesitation to tell you what's happening whatsoever. Because I strongly believe that we must face reality. Achilles talked about a dichotomy in the Cypriot community over the last 400 years, 500 years. That dichotomy, it's not reflected in our DNA. However, our DNA does not carry the ethnicity we think we actually have in this country either. So in fact, the minority are the Greeks, and there's only 15%. If you take the population as a whole of Cyprus, you'll only find that only 15% is the actual impact of the Greek DNA, whatever that is, okay? Most of it is coming from Asia and this region here. We seem to have a strong influence from Jews. Now, it is also beyond any scientific doubt that the Cypriot population has been homogeneous for hundreds and hundreds of years. In 1990, a very eminent scientist from the north part of Cyprus carried out a study with colleagues at the Cyprus Institute of Neurology and Genetics to study thalassemia. And when they analyzed the results, they were stunned. They were exactly the same frequencies of defects in the Greek and the Turkish Cypriot population. So they actually wrote in that paper that we strongly think that over the last few centuries, there was no population influence from a neighboring region. In other words, there was no influence. Now, I know this is, some people say it's a controversy, but it's fundamental that we study where we come from. And where we come from, we're a soup. We're a genetic soup of different people, I wouldn't say nationality, that happen to land on this island thousands of years. They interbreed, they intermarried, it's a homogeneous population, and they created the dress codes we're about to see, at least in the latter version of our history. I owed it to my own discipline to tell you these things because I think it's also fundamental, because you guys in the Science and Technology of Archaeology Institute Center, you're using techniques like the cyclotron. What is a cyclotron doing? Blowing up the material that our heritage is made of so that we can study it. And I finish by saying this. I was talking to earlier our colleague about our intangible cultural heritage. Our heritage is essentially a chain. If one part of the chain is missing, then the whole chain is disrupted. We are living areas of very fast transition in our civilization, and a lot of our intangible cultural heritage is probably going to be lost. And we think we've come to a critical point, because intangible cultural heritage is one that if it's lost, it can never be recovered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Malas. First, let me open the presentation of Frosso and Noli. And now, you will allow me to also introduce you briefly, Frosso. So, Professor Rizopoulou Igoumenidou studied history and archaeology at the University of Athens, prehistoric and classical archaeology at the University of Heidelberg and the University of London. She obtained her PhD from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. She served as archaeological officer, head of the branch of folk culture of the Cyprus Department of Antiquities between 1983 and 1995. She was, for many years, between 1995 and 2013, faculty at the Department of History and Archaeology of the University of Cyprus. She has also been adjunct professor at the Cyprus Institute in Nicosia since 2015. And in 2019, she was designated founding member of the Cyprus Academy of Sciences, Letters, and Arts. Besides her very impressive list of projects, publications, among them 25 books and presentations, Professor Igoumenidou has served in key committees and boards related to the protection and management of cultural heritage. For example, she is consultant for issues of intangible cultural heritage at the Cyprus National Commission for UNESCO. In 2022, she was nominated honorary professor of the School of Classics and Humanities at the Department of History and Ethnology at the Democritus University of Thrace, and in the same year, she was awarded the Lycurgion Prize of the Academy of Athens for her 2020 book, The List of Properties of the Dragoman of Cyprus, Hagiorgakis Cornesios, Contribution to the Research of the Material, Social, and Intellectual Life of Cyprus during the 18th and the early 19th centuries. Dr. Moisi is an experienced archaeology and cultural heritage expert with over 15 years of experience in museum curation, archaeology, and archival management. She holds a PhD in traditional culture from the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of Cyprus, and a master's in museum and gallery studies from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. She has managed cultural archives, curated exhibitions, and led archaeological missions, notably with the Committee on Missing Persons in Cyprus. Dr. Moisi has also taught at the University of Cyprus on topics such as folk art and traditional culture. Since 2019, she's serving as the Historical Archives Administrator at the Patichion Municipal Museum, Historical Archives and Research Center of Limassol. So, Frosso, the podium is yours, with the topic History and Culture of Dress in Cyprus from the 16th to the 20th century, Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, and Armenians. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, I hope you are not already exhausted with what you have heard so far. Well, listening to what the president of the Cyprus Institute has said, I remembered the words of the late archaeologist Dimitrios Theocharis at the Volos Museum in Thessaly. He used to say that races are for horses and dogs. People are mixed. So I start with my presentation. It all began with a fantastic early 19th century fairy tale which described how by midnight Christmas Eve, the toys became alive. From its illustrated pages, jumped out full of life the various figures, the heroes of the tale, Snow White, Pinocchio, soldiers, bears, and hares. It was such a tale that inspired Piotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky to compose the Nutcracker. My research on Cypriot dress from the early 1990s till today developed in the wake of that tale. In my effort to discover the appearance of the people of Cyprus during the period of Ottoman rule, in the face of almost a total absence of preserved dress items, I started to search for information in original written sources of the time, property inventories of deceased people, consular documents, travelogues, dowry contracts, folk poetry, etc. In parallel, I tried to connect words and descriptions with artistic representations, religious and other paintings, portraits, drawings, and later with photographs. This long and arduous path led me to preserved dress items dating from the last decades of the 19th century onwards, the period of British rule. Each one of the written sources shed light on different aspects of the subject. The objects listed in property inventories, in particular, reflected the profession, the financial and social status, the lifestyle of the deceased, their specific needs and choices. The names of dress items and jewelry, the expensive fur coats from Siberia, the endless variety of textiles, their colors and hues, in a time during which the appearance was determined by strict laws and regulations, indicated, inter alia, external, long-distance, even global trade connections. On the whole, they proved to be valuable sources for the reconstruction of the appearance in relation to social stratification. Folk poetry revealed and praised beauty and luxury, properties which the naturalistic paintings of those times, with their special emphasis on the details, transformed to living figures. Travelers' descriptions complemented the picture with personal impressions and comments. The art of photography, from the late 19th century onwards, opened new horizons in the research of dress, contributing to a more objective evaluation of both tangible and intangible data. After 25 years research on traditional Cypriot dress, the publication of numerous articles in scientific journals, presentations at international conferences, and the publication of books on Cypriot attire, alongside the study of earlier and contemporary Cypriot ethnographers, the time had come to present in a broad database and in a language accessible to the international public, a panorama of the appearance of all three main communities of the island from the 16th to the 20th centuries. Towards this aim, we took advantage of the high technology of the Cyprus Institute, and this pioneer project became an integral part of the Dioptra, the Cyprus Institute's digital library for Cypriot culture. The title of the project is History and Culture of Dress in Cyprus from the 16th to the 20th centuries, Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots, and Armenians, for the first time appear on the stage with the distinctive for each period apparel, people of both sexes, representing the three main communities that cover almost the whole spectrum of the population of Cyprus, which will be later supplemented with the Maronites and Latins. This is the first comprehensive attempt to utilize the great opportunities offered in the field of digital cultural heritage for the study and dissemination of the history of dress in Cyprus in its broader socioeconomic and cultural context. During the 3 centuries of Ottoman rule in Cyprus that followed the medieval Frankish kingdom and Venetian rule, the people of Cyprus came into closer contact with Oriental dress and other aspects of Ottoman culture. Strict regulations were imposed on the appearance of the rayas, the Christian subjects, with the exception of the beratli, those who were granted special privileges under the regime of the capitulations with the European states, inter alia to wear the colorful dress of the conqueror. The restriction of luxury was also imposed by the Church of Cyprus, which during this period had acquired immense wealth and power. The luxurious overcoats with which the archbishops are depicted in their portraits, like the kaftan and the kavadi or the jupe, had a long history in Orient, inherited by the Byzantines from the Persians and later adopted by the Ottomans. The population of the island presented a differentiated social stratification, which can be schematically visualized in the shape of a pyramid. The broad base was occupied by the poor working class in the town centers and the peasantry, who comprised the overwhelming majority of the population and lived under miserable conditions, dressed in humble cotton clothes woven in the loom and usually wearing white headscarves appropriate for the hot sun of Cyprus. A developing class of merchants and artisans, organized in guilds, formed the middle class of the social hierarchy. Written sources and representations of both Turks and Greeks show that the wider strata of the population wearing the typical dress of the islands, of the corsairs, and the inhabitants of the coast of North Africa, primarily Algeria, wherefrom it spread to the wider Mediterranean region. This was the apparel with the baggy trousers, the vraka. Despite some distinctive features of each nationality, particularly the headdress, the resemblance is noticeable. The personages who formed the local upper class in the social hierarchy of the island, the dragoman of Cyprus, high-ranking members of the clergy, a few notables and wealthy merchants, landowners and money-lenders had adopted the Ottoman dress in all its luxury and glamour. The Oriental dress was typical of the elite, as noted by Ali Bey in 1806. Persons of any position always wear long coats, like Turks. Instead of the turban of the Muslims, their distinctive headdress was the kalpak, in 2 different types. Similarly dressed with the kettle-shaped kalpak were the Armenians of Cyprus, mostly merchants. Some of them, like Bogos Berj Artin Eramian, the founder of the Eramian dynasty, Hayrebet Melikian, and the richest Armenian, Sarkis, dragoman of the French and subsequently of the British consulate, possessed huge properties and were deeply involved in the economic and social life of Cyprus by the beginning of the 19th century. The lifestyle of the local elite, irrespective of nationality, was expressed in all aspects of material life: spacious mansions with luxurious interior arrangement, furnishings, and decoration, and last but not least, in their appearance, dress, jewelry, and personal items. Most of them lived in Nicosia, the capital of the island, where the presence of the Ottomans was overwhelming. On the other hand, in Larnaca, the principal commercial port and the seat of the consulates of the European states, developed a strong community of merchants, both European and local. Among the Venetian subjects, many were from the Ionian Islands. The close relations with Europe were also reflected in their appearance. According to Otto Friedrich von Richter, who visited Cyprus in 1816, the attractions that Larnaca offers to a European returning from Asia are the various traces of Europeanism in the local dress code. Here, the hat has pushed the turban aside. The tragic events of 1821, executions and persecution by the Turks in Nicosia in the wake of the Greek Revolution, in which Cyprus was indirectly involved, dealt a severe blow to the ruling class of the island and its luxurious material life. In the decades that followed, under the influence of the Tanzimat reforms in the Ottoman Empire, a new ruling class emerged in Cyprus with a different Western-type appearance and lifestyle in general. A basic renovation in men's attire all over the empire was the adoption of the fez, which was imposed by the Sultan Mahmud II, 1808 to 1839, in order to be abolished and humiliated much later in 1923 by Kemal Atatürk. Travelers who visited Cyprus during the first years of British rule occasionally recorded their glimpses of the appearance of the natives. In his book, British Cyprus, published in London in 1879, Hepworth Dixon commented, "Men and women in Nicosia proclaim their nationality in their dress, men by means of turban and fez, women by means of yashmak and shawl. The female dress is up to strike you first, all Muslim women being robed from head to foot in white with nothing but their eyes exposed, while Orthodox women are clothed in gaudy colors, sea green, orange, red, and striped, with all their charms obtruded on the public side." Émile Deschamps, in his book Opéi d'Aphrodite, commented on the attire of local people during his stay in Cyprus from 1892 to 1894, and his general remark was that Greeks and Turks were similarly dressed. He noticed particularly the local Turkish dandies in their fezes and baggy trousers tied at the calves with garters. The fez was often very tall, worn slightly askew, wound with a white scarf decorated with golden fringes and with its ends falling on the face. He commented that this headgear was the most ungraceful part of their attire. They often put a flower or a bunch of flowers over the ear. Over the broad-sleeved shirt, they wore a waistcoat, usually with different colors on the front and back, such as blue or bright red on the chest, and beige or apple green with flower patterns on the back. The waist was surrounded with a wide, colorful cummerbund falling to the middle of the calves. The attire was completed with pink, blue, or yellow patterned stockings, tightly held by red garters, and open shoes. Such shoes were worn by the townsmen, while peasants wore heavy top boots. This attire was a typical traditional main costume of the Turks of Cyprus. Deschamps devoted a rather impressionistic description of to the Turkish ladies, as he noticed a swarm of them in front of the walls of Larnaca Castle. Seen from a distance, with their colorful umbrellas contrasting with their white garments, they looked like a beautiful flower bed in a field covered with snow. However, the tendency towards Europeanization was noticeable in Cyprus before the island was ceded to Britain in 1878. The change in men's apparel was summed up in a few concise words by Georgios Fragoudis in his presentation of the Cypriot exhibition, which was organized by the Patriotic Association of Cypriots in 1901 in Zapion, Athens. In the towns, the men of good class, the Tselepides, means the gentlemen, the educated, who in earlier times wore the oriental underya, loose robes, and salvaria, long pantaloons, slightly different from those of the Turks, had replaced them long ago by the frangica, Western European dress. At the same time, ordinary people proudly wore and continued to wear the vraka, baggy breeches. By the end of the 19th century, the vraka, in combination with a waistcoat, gileko, worn over the shirt and a sash around the waist, had become the national dress of the Cypriot male. At the Cypriot exhibition were exhibited examples of all the main traditional costumes of the island, both Turkish, the Turk of the towns, the villager Turk with his narrow white vraka. The term Turkish Cypriot was not used by that time. They said the Turk of the town, the villager Turk. And Greek Cypriots, of course. Among others was the apparel of the town lady, later known as Amalia. It was linked with the name of Amalia, Queen of Greece, and had been adopted in the urban centers of Cyprus by the mid-19th century as a variation of the Greek national costume. It is documented by dowry contracts and portraits of the time depicting upper-class ladies who complemented their apparel with valuable jewelry. The Amalia traditional costume comprises a silk shirt, a skirt or dress, a gold-embroidered jacket, and a red fez adorned with a black tassel and flowers made of tiny pearls. Under British rule, major developments took place, like the improvement and expansion of harbor facilities and the inland communications network, a stable currency and efficient administrative and judicial systems. Entry to modernity was marked by the application of science and the introduction of technology. A growing middle class with people involved in many new occupations was formed in the urban centers, where also a new upper class emerged. Members of the new elite founded the first industries, promoted trade, and occupied high administrative posts. They created a modern lifestyle, lived in neoclassical houses equipped with Western-style furniture, and were the first who donned Frankish attire. British rule enhanced the Europeanization of Cyprus. The rising class of wealthy merchants represented the new dynamic element in their society and promptly adopted the new fashion, which gradually penetrated the countryside in a more provincial style. A consequence of the change in attire, particularly among the urban population, was the creation and development of new special occupations, such as tailors for men's Western-style costumes and seamstresses and dressmakers for women's clothes. Between the years 1894 and 1923, following the deportations and massacres committed by the Ottomans and the Young Turks, Cyprus welcomed over 10,000 Armenian refugees from Asia Minor, Cilicia, and Anatolia. About 1,500 of them made the island their new home. In 1877, a year before the arrival of the British, there were 152 Armenians in Cyprus, mostly in Nicosia, and in 1956, according to that year's population census, their number increased to 4,549. The Armenian community's lasting legacy is deeply interwoven with all aspects of the Cyprus history, be it educational, culinary, or fashion. Being industrious, cultivated, and progressive, the Armenians soon thrived and established themselves as people of the arts, letters, and sciences, capable entrepreneurs and merchants, craftsmen, and pioneer photographers, thus significantly contributing to Cyprus's overall socioeconomic and cultural development. As far as their appearance is concerned, the few preserved dress items and the plethora of photographs clearly show that the Armenians of Cyprus had adopted the European fashion with all its variations, accessories, and elegance, as well as the white, lace-decorated bridal dress. As for the more conservative Ottoman women, who outdoors were covered from head to toe with a white cotton sheet, they also adopted their appearance to the Western fashion, but at a slower pace depending on their social class. Research on the development of the Cypriot apparel from the 16th to the 20th centuries leads to the conclusion that in the course of time, the local tradition has retained its character and vitality, and filtering various foreign influences, selectively assimilated new elements, preserving at the same time old dress items and adapting them according to its needs. For example, in the 1760s, Giovanni Mariti distinguished the alla turca dress from the alla Cypriota, describing as the main element of the latter a red cotton pleated skirt worn in combination with a tight vest. Undoubtedly, this skirt was the rugettin, which, together with the white, thickly pleated doubletin, survived in the remotest region of Cyprus, Carpassia, particularly at Rizzocarpasso, echoing also in its name the medieval past of the island. In Carpassia, as well as in Paphos, under the saya, made of striped alaja, woven in the loom, women used to wear long, thick cotton vrakia with the lower part embroidered. The vrakia of this typical traditional costume formed the local imitation and survival of the full silk shalvar of the Ottoman period, the memory of which is reflected in Cypriot folk poetry. Your shalvar is long and baggy at its lower part. Το σελουβάριν σον μακρύν και χαμηλοφουντώνει. The digital library for the history and culture of dress in Cyprus facilitates the study and dissemination of the apparel of the Greek Cypriots, of the Turkish Cypriots, and the Armenian community in Cyprus. Utilizing the available written, visual, and material evidence, primary focus was given to the early modern and modern eras corresponding to the periods of Ottoman and British rule in Cyprus. During this time, the development of Cypriot dress mirrored aspects of the cultural identity, the daily life, and the socioeconomic aspirations of the various strata of Cypriot society as they transitioned between the insular realities of Ottoman Cyprus and the island's gradual Europeanization in the colonial context of the British Empire. The use of advanced digital technologies and applications offered a unique approach to an important aspect of Cypriot cultural heritage. Digital documentation, 2D and 3D imaging and database applications contributed to the creation of a web-based digital platform that virtually narrates and explores the cultural development of the Cypriot dress. The structure of the digital platform can schematically be presented in the form of a funnel, which opens and becomes gradually wider as we move from its tip, where the sources are minimal, outwards, with the available material gradually increasing as we proceed chronologically to the present. Following the recording of the historical background in a shorter and a more extensive form, written sources, visual documentation, and preserved items are presented separately for each community and in chronological order, first the Ottoman and subsequently the period of British rule. Each unit is accompanied by an ever-expanding bibliography and a glossary of the specific terminology. Separate fields include descriptions of techniques connected with weaving, sewing, and decoration of dress items, the dyeing of block printing of scarves, as well as techniques applied for making jewelry. Our foray into digital publication is to expand viewers' horizons, to guide them through various ways of understanding how dress serves to define individuality or groups, to reveal wealth or poverty, announce political authority, leverage identities, and suggest spirituality beyond the physical realm. Dress displays a creative spirit as well as a deep need to be distinct and to belong. It reflects status, various roles, power, and rank. The digital publication of the history and culture of dress in Cyprus will allow its viewers to delve more profoundly into this vast and complex subject and will leverage its expertise across the academic community and an ever-expanding wider public. From the beginning in 2015 till now, 10 years, Noli Moisi has been the heart and soul of the project, which, however, could not have been realized without the valuable contribution of other volunteers. Noli will continue and mention all of them. Thank you.
Good evening. I am honored to present to you the contribution of all those whose vision, hard work and commitment made this initiative possible, bridging past and present in a unique digital archive. Our project, the Digital Library for the History and Culture of Dress in Cyprus, is more than a database. It is a gateway to Cypriot heritage. Through this project, we invite audiences to explore and connect with the layers of history that shaped Cypriot identity. We owe a profound depth of gratitude to Dr. Efrosini Rizopoulou Igoumenidou, Professor Emerita at the University of Cyprus and adjunct professor at the Cyprus Institute. Her vision and pioneering research laid the foundation for this endeavor. Dr. Rizopoulou Igoumenidou's commitment have been a guiding light, inspiring our team to push boundaries and think creatively. Her contribution, rooted in extensive research and a profound respect for Cypriot history, have provided the critical framework on which our digital archive is built. Equally integral to our success is the Cyprus Institute team, under the guidance of Dr. Nicholas Bekirgis, whose project coordination have been invaluable. I would like to extend special thanks to Dr. Augustinos Avgousti, our digital cultural heritage specialist, whose expertise in database architecture and digital preservation supported the development of this resource. Additionally, Robertos Georgiou, our digital imaging specialist, brought his technical skills to the field, capturing the textures and details of each piece through advanced imaging techniques. Andriana Nicolaidou, our dedicated research assistant, shaped the database structure, ensuring that each record contributes meaningfully to the narrative of Cypriot dress. The digital age has transformed the way we present and share cultural heritage. Through 2D and 3D imaging and an accessible online database, we have brought the history of Cypriot dress to a global audience. This project stands as a milestone, being the first comprehensive digital archive of Cypriot dress hosted within the Dioptra Digital Library. Dioptra, the Cyprus Institute digital platform for Cypriot cultural heritage, is a fitting home for this endeavor. By integrating traditional scholarship with digital tools, we have crafted a resource that does more than preserve history. It makes it accessible, immersive, and relevant for future generations. Our heartfelt gratitude extends to our tireless volunteer researchers whose passion for Cypriot heritage fueled their countless hours of work. Dr. Petroula Hadjitofi, Dr. Haris Paraskevas, Dr. Christina Roditou, Rita Kounoudi, Alexander Mikhail Hanzilira, Dr. Charlotte Stephen, and Dr. Yosif Hadjikyriakos dedicated themselves to collecting, translating, and documenting materials that would otherwise remain hidden. Their expertise and commitment have enriched our archive and helped create a vibrant, inclusive resource. The records they collected enable us to present the diverse expressions of Cypriot dress. Our journey through Cypriot dress began with Greek Cypriot attire, a style shaped by centuries of interaction between Eastern and Western influences. This unique cultural expression was documented with contributions from the Department of Antiquities that gave us access to the House of the Dragoman of Cyprus and the Geroskipou Museum. The Leventis Museum contributions included a stunning collection of buckles and clasps, as well as Apostol Deveris photographic collection that allowed us to visualize how Cypriots presented themselves and their social identities through dress. We would like to thank Le Musée du Louvre and especially Clio Karagiorgis for the Montfort collection drawings. Our work has been deeply enriched by the support of other Cypriot institutions. The Costa and Rita Severis Foundation provided access to an impressive array of artworks from traveling artists between the 18th and 20th centuries. The Limassol Municipal Museum of Folk Art and Pieridis Museum back of Cyprus Culture Foundation contributed with folk art items that highlight Cypriot life. The Fivos Stavridis Foundation Larnac Archive and Patikion Municipal Museum Historical Archives Research Center of Limassol generously shared valuable photographs from the British period. The Stavros Lazaridis collection, with its rare postcards, engravings, and documents from the British era, has added exceptional historical depth to our project. The Christos Christoforou collection, currently on display at the Paphos Zoo Folk Art Museum in Peia, is also represented with selected dress items. Our journey in documenting Cypriot dress took us beyond the island to collaborate with well-known museums in Greece, each offering invaluable resources that expanded our understanding of Cypriot attire within a broader cultural and historical framework. We are especially grateful to the National Historical Museum of Athens for granting us access to material that connect Cypriot dress to Greek heritage through the exhibition and publication Cypriot Costumes in the National Historical Museum, The World of Cyprus at the Dawn of the 20th Century. The Benaki Museum was equally instrumental, providing access to pieces from the Cypriot ethnographic collection. Our partnership with Lyceum Club of Greek Women introduced us to a wealth of resources, including rare costumes and garments. A special addition to our project was the Cypriot Amalia costume provided by the Peloponnesian Folklore Foundation. This costume, celebrated for its historical and aesthetic significance, was brought to life through the 3D digital modeling during the Bride exhibition at Leventis Municipal Museum. A truly delightful and unexpected discovery was the collection of the 66 Cypriot garments at the Historical and Folk Museum of Corinth. This remarkable find was added new dimensions to our archive, allowing us to document an even wider array of traditional Cypriot attire. The Turkish Cypriot dress collection forms an essential part of our project, highlighting the rich, diverse heritage of Cyprus' Turkish community. At the epicenter of our Turkish Cypriot collection is the Aziz Dabdelen collection offered by his wife Janev, a remarkable compilation that captures the essence of Turkish Cypriot cultural heritage. The approach went beyond mere collection. He recorded each item's story, including personal details about the individuals who once wore or used these items. His meticulous documentation, capturing names, ages, profession, villages, and the period in which the photographs were taken, provides an irreplaceable historical and social context of each piece. Photographs and dress items of the Aziz Dabdelen collection were published by Efrosini Rizopoulou Goumenidou in the book Turkish Cypriot Dress, Aziz Dabdelen Collection. Including the Turkish Cypriot dress collection in our project, we honor the community's distinctive cultural heritage and the unique ways Turkish Cypriots expressed their identity through clothing. This collection enriches our understanding of Cyprus' cultural diversity, reminding us that the island's identity is woven from the shared histories, tradition, and influences of all its communities. The Armenian community have been deeply integral part of Cypriot history, with roots tracking back to 578 AD, making one of the oldest established communities on the island. We are immensely honored to include the Armenian Cypriot legacy in our project, representing a community whose resilience and cultural pride have left an indelible mark on Cypriot society. Our collection of Armenian Cypriot dress and artifacts was made possible through the invaluable contributions of dedicated community members. Ruth Kesisyan supported us through our program in various ways. Bers and Zoe Ramian graciously provided access to family photographs, archive, and historical artifacts that capture the spirit of Armenian tradition preserved across generations. With Aline Melikian also opened her family photographic archives, contributing with unique historical items that bring depth to our understanding of Armenian Cypriot life. Her collection, like that of other Armenian families, tells us a story of migration, adaptation, preservation. In addition, Sonia Tulumzian and her son, Habet Tulumzian, generously shared family heirlooms that provide further insight into Armenian Cypriot customs and traditions. We are also grateful to have incorporated pieces from the exhibition In a Foreign Land, which accompanied the staging of Richard Kalinowski play The Beast on the Moon, presented by the Persona Theatre Group. This exhibition serves as a moving reminder of the Armenian diaspora impact on Cyprus. In closing, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has supported this journey. This project represents a true collaboration across disciplines, cultures, and generations. Each of you, scholars, researchers, technicians, and supporters, has played a vital role in preserving the heritage of Cyprus. Together, we have created a digital platform that not only records history, but also invites the world to engage with it. It's a bridge connecting the past with the future, ensuring that the story of Cyprus dress lives on the generation to come. Thank you for your support, dedication, and shared commitment to this meaningful work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Noli. We will be very quick as we conclude the evening. We have Agustinos will help me. Of course, here I'll have to acknowledge also the work, as you heard, of Robertos Georgiou and Andriana Nicolaidou. We prepared a video to show you how from Dioptra you reach the digital library of the Cypriot, of the history and culture of the Cypriot dress. It's extremely rich with texts written by Professor Igoumenidou, Dr. Moisi, and other colleagues. But of course, in terms of the platform, I want to also ask Dr. Avgousti to talk to us a little bit about some of the technical details of the platform, which already it's 10 years old, so we're already thinking of its updates and fresh. But the content, 10 years work, is what is the essence here.
Thank you, Nicolas. So my name is Agustinos. I am the developer of the database that I have to say was quite complicated to develop due to the diverse materials. When I start developing the database, I have three things on my mind. First, to be user-friendly, meaning for non-technical people to find materials in this vast database because it has thousands of objects. So I created something that is easy to navigate and easy to find the information that the user is looking for. For example, breaking down the periods, creating search engines that the user can search through keywords and found the relative information. The second thing that I have in mind was to develop something that is based on international standards, and I mean metadata standards for interoperability between systems. So we can use the database for other European projects or connect 2 or 3 databases together. And the third one and the last one, it was to be extensible. It sits on our HPC facility, the supercomputer infrastructure that we have at the Cyprus Institute. And what that means is we can extend it to host other collections from Cyprus, but from other countries, and I mean European countries. And also we can extend the technologies that we are using. For now, we're using 2D images and 3D, but we can extend it to use other technologies such as RTI, reflectance transformation image, or, I don't know, Nicola, if you like to add anything.
Also connected to immersive environments, etc. I think that you're already getting a sense of how rich the material is, and what is important is also it has a lot of text that can be downloaded and saved as PDFs. Agustinos mentioned not only the imaging, here is an example of some of the 3D imaging that we did on specific, some of selected dresses. And definitely you have to understand that as more people will be interacting with this database now, we will be getting a lot of feedback, which we hope and we really intend to keep enriching dynamically the way that this database develops and the way that this digital library grows. Definitely, as you know, these digital resources constantly need updates, and we are here. We have the support of our HPC facility, but at the same time, the most valuable, let's say, investment has been the achievement led by Froso and the whole team to actually collect all this information, write these valuable base texts, and everything else will be simply enriching this momentous effort. So from our side, we want to really thank Froso for leading this effort. Agustin?
Yes, and also another thing that is very important with online collections, imagine that those items, they are sitting in different museums and different collections, but now are accessible for everybody 24/7 from their home. And this is the magic thing about the internet. We basically democratize this information. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, the video keeps playing. There is a lot more. I mean, we're actually playing it a little bit faster because, but we could be spending another 2 hours just going chapter by chapter, part by part. So here I want to thank everybody and thank you all for coming. And I don't think there is time for any comments or discussion. There is a reception outside. So please join us for a glass of wine. Thank you.